from this angle right now. Sorry about the poll right here. I'm actually multitasking. But I want to talk to you about something while I'm doing this. So I'm actually going to be leading a workshop on mental health. And it got me thinking about this whole idea of how we've normalized fearing thoughts, especially in the world of manifestation, and how it created a lot of mental health issues and problems, and quite possibly even disorders, I would argue. And the main issue is that we think, for example, thoughts create things, but obviously that isn't the case. And this is where a lot of people really delineate or make a difference between, let's say, law of attraction and Neville Goddard's work. And so we're going to explore that today. But to explore that, we have to go way back. And I mean, way back to what it is that the brain is, how it works, how it operates the way it operates, how it operated as when we were infants and babies, as to where we are now with that, and how we and our brain develops, right? And so I want to talk about Thermal Chill. What's up? What's up? What's up? How you doing, buddy? Introduce yourself. Make sure you hit that like button. Just tap, 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 tap. Introduce yourself. What's up, homeboy? Come on in. We're just talking about a mix of different things, by the way. A lot of science, psychology, manifestation, Neville Goddard, law of attraction, but from like an evolutionary understanding. And why do we fear? Why do we fear our thoughts? Oh, you're awesome, man. That's perfect, man. One thing I want to talk about is this idea of like how we've come to really grossly misunderstand what it means to either vibrate or manifest. I don't really like the word vibrate because it's tied to law of attraction. I'm not pro law of attraction. I'm not against it. Thank you, Thermal. But why is it that we've been taught to fear our thoughts? And what is it about our thoughts that we should fear? Should we not fear them? I'm going to give you some tips either from NLP and also psychology. So that's going to help you hopefully down regulate it, and more than just meditation. Meditation is huge, and I encourage everybody in my coaching program to obviously start a meditation practice whenever you can. Usually what you want to do is you want to work up to at least twice a day, 20 minutes twice a day, meaning 40 minutes total every day. And that's just because neuroscientific research shows that that's the quickest way to down regulate, meaning quiet the mind, and also quiet the not the negative energy of those emotions, because I don't believe in negative emotions. I think us labeling them negative emotions is extremely irresponsible and like a child, right? Meaning like, oh my gosh, you did this and you did that, and we're kind of like looking to blame something, right, rather than take responsibility. So, but to fully understand why there's a huge difference between, let's say, Neville's work and, let's say, a typical law of attraction, but also why are we fearing our thoughts, right? Did you happen something good today? Oh, Leonard, dude, everything's good, man. Yes, yeah. So I'm big on the law of assumption. I coach in that. So I'm actually trained. I'm actually trained in neuroscience from Harvard, and welcome in, everybody. Introduce where you are in the world. Don't forget to find out more about me on my bio. If you're looking for coaching, hit that email button, ask questions about packages. And also I do offer a monthly breakdown for your packages if you want to make them cheaper. I do offer payment plans. But yes, so I do practice law of assumption. I'm an advocate of it. I think the major issue is that people really, really fear thoughts, because law of attraction really, really kind of hones in on this idea of, oh, right on, man. I'm a rock climber, so I love Colorado. So we're not meant to fear our thoughts. Thoughts originate from states, but what are states? Well, Neville Goddard defines states as a body of beliefs that turn into an assumption, but he also calls the assumption a perceptive lens. What does that mean? Well, that means you start seeing the world and everybody else and yourself and limitations and what's possible and what's not possible from this lens. In basic childhood psychology, it is time to learn about what we're talking about right now. Madison, how are you? Introduce yourself. And so basically what we need to do is we need to come to understand that our thoughts are not our enemies. We have to love our thoughts, right? If we fear our thoughts, then we fear ourselves, because we are, even though we're not our thoughts and we're not our emotions, these are tools to form the state. But what is a state? It's a body of beliefs, right? So for example, if you, let's say, believe that the world is a great place, well, then you're gonna have a body of beliefs, not one belief, not two beliefs, not three beliefs, a body of beliefs that are gonna form together, that are gonna create and crystallize into a way of seeing the world. That's your perceptive lens, that's your assumption. Neville Goddard says that we only will experience the world through our assumptions. That's it. But again, our assumptions are those body of beliefs that crystallize and harden and turn into a way of us seeing ourselves, what's possible, and then what is possible out in the world and who people are in relationship to us. So remember, thank you guys for all the likes. Make sure you double tap, introduce where you're from, and tell me more about you. Thank you for joining in. Don't forget to hit that subscription button and the subscribe button and follow. And I am a coach. I'm trained in neuroscience, behavioral science, and psychology. I'm actually working on doing a presentation right now on mental health. So let's go back to why the brain is designed to detect threats. Because for us to really, really grasp what Neville's talking about, right, and us to actually grasp why he says thoughts don't create things, because that's all ultimately what he says, and why it's different than law of attraction, is to really understand why we've been taught to fear our thoughts, right? Why is it that when a lot of people come to Neville Goddard's work, or even law of attraction, why are we almost assuming that our thoughts are the enemy? Right? Well, we are taught and we are normalized, right, through society to understand that our brain is a threat detection mechanism. It is, and that's true. According to neuroscience, your brain is designed to find out and seek out threats. Even when you're an infant, the first thing it seeks out is, when I cry, what's going to happen? Oh, nobody's going to come? Well, that's a loss. So then you start defining yourself through the lens of being an infant, of, oh, when I cry, nobody's going to come and take care of me. That's a sense of loss. So then you start out in the world with a sense of loss. Okay, so then you begin fearing what loss is. Now remember, both Neville Goddard and his friend, somebody who was also trained by the same guy, Joseph Murphy, actually they weren't friends, but right, talk about how you never should agree to loss. Okay, you never ever want to agree to loss. Never. In this world, right, you never ever want to agree to loss, guys. What I want to do is hang on, let me just deal with this one here. And yeah, guys, if you're going to be coming in, I'm just going to basically, if you're coming in to bring negativity, you're just going to get blocked. This is all about positivity and encouragement and mental health and building people up. Okay, so if you're here for that sake of that purpose, please don't come in. You are not really, really wanted here. So go somewhere where you are wanted. And here we want to build a supportive community around mental health, around identity, around manifestation, right? Okay. Your brain is designed to detect threats in your environment. Even from the day one of you being a baby in the world, your brain is operating on, is there a loss? Is there something I'm going to lose out of this thing? When I shout, when I cry, am I going to feel a loss? Is nobody going to show up? And sadly, yes, you could look at statistics, right? I mean, a lot of people give up their babies, and I mean physically give them up. They put them in dumpsters sometimes, right? This is very, very sad. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because your brain is primed to look for in its world and its environment as a threat detector. Neville is saying stop doing that. Stop looking through the lens of threat detection, because that's loss. That's like if there's something bigger than me, like if I can't pay my bill, if I feel lonely because somebody I love just left me, like whether it be a girlfriend, boyfriend, or whoever it is, right? And you look at that as a threat, right? Then you are priming your brain, which by the way is God. Your mind is God, right? Your mind is not machine, because I don't like the word machine. Your brain is an organic chemical factory, right? And it is designed to create for you, depending on how you control and guide it. Not in your environment, not anybody else around you, right? Everything that you do, say, touch, hear, feel, and are reminded of, and that you agree to, that is how you are creating your reality, okay? And for those of you who are not into the woo side of it, like lighting candles and reading astrology, which I'm not into any of that, right? I'm into the science side of this. Then you basically have to come to accept that your brain is trained from birth by evolution, through evolution, to look and detect your environment, right, as a threat detection machine and as a mechanism that is trying to protect you all the time. Okay, so when you get taught, for example, in the law of attraction, mostly, right, because Neville does not teach you to fear your thoughts, okay, but law of attraction does. And so you are being taught and trained to identify with your thoughts. You're being taught to train and identify not only with your thoughts, but identify what you are identifying with. Meaning, if you have a thought of lack, then you're not just having a thought of lack, you are lack. You are lacking something. And then what you do is you then begin internalizing that, creating a world from within to without, right? That actually only produces more lack in your life. So then let me just say it this way. If you fear, you create a person. You create that person, which is you, playing the role of somebody who's always primed to fear, who is always ready to fear. In fact, and this is a big, huge challenge and a big, huge tip for you, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to take the next 5 to 14 days and I want you to actually choose, okay? I want you to choose one of your 5 senses, okay? And every day, I want you to operate and analyze through those senses. So let's say, for example, let's say you start Monday and you operate through, okay, I'm gonna sit here for 15 minutes twice a day, right? 15 minutes twice a day, so 30 minutes total. And you analyze, let's say you wanna do sight. Okay, well, where does your brain go? Like when you see, let's say, a bill, when you see something on TV, when you see your car, when you see the person that you think you love, but then you think that they're rejecting you. What do you see, and then what is your interpretation of that? That's gonna tell you what state you're in. That's gonna tell you how you believe. That's gonna tell you what you value right now. That's gonna tell you your body of beliefs, which is a state. And then so what are thoughts? Thoughts are arrows. Thoughts are paths, but paths that are led from somewhere else. They originate somewhere else, okay? So if you think of thoughts more like paths, then you also think of, well, there's a start to this path, right? One of the biggest benefits of being single is that you don't have to feel or be responsible for anyone else's emotional state. You get to exercise all your inner power to be of service to others. Yes. Now, I am pro being single. I'm pro being married. I'm pro being dating. I'm pro being whatever it is that you want. Now, if you're saying that you do that because you fear that, then that's very different, right? Then you're saying, well, I'm single because I'm trying to avoid fear of loss, right? I don't think you're saying that, Thermal, by the way. I'm just saying that when you said that, it did bring up, since we're talking around fear a lot, right? Because fear is a projection into your future. There's a tendency, according to research, right? And anxiety is a projection from your past. So projection of fear is towards, heading towards something, towards your future. Fear, future. You can have the 2 F's, right? And then anxiety tends to be your past, right? And so we tend to identify through these because we live in a society. By the way, so I used to be a marketer, and so a lot of what I've trained companies and businesses and product managers to do is create fear and lack. And I don't do that anymore because I don't agree with it, right? But that's a lot of American capitalism is based on, let's produce fear so that people will continuously keep consuming things so that they will feel less fear. That basically they'll keep buying this product. They'll keep buying into this image. They'll keep buying into this ideology. They'll keep buying into this value system because this anxiety keeps them coming back for more. Neville is saying, don't do that. Don't live in fear. Don't live in regret. Don't live in lack or loss. You never agree to it. So then what happens is if, let's say you go and you try to manifest the lottery and you don't win that one. Well, you don't agree to it as loss. Say this is the journey towards something, right? Or I'm learning what to do, right? So everything's about learning. If you don't learn, you don't grow. If you don't push, you don't grow, right? And push is very different from effort, because Neville says that when you manifest, it should be effortless. That doesn't mean that you're never going to try to direct your thoughts. That doesn't mean that you're never going to try to direct your emotions. What it means is that over time, when you build that up, it's going to feel effortless. He doesn't explain this always very well, but that's what he's intending when he says this is meant to be effortless. The effort will come. I mean, the effortlessness will come, right? And so that is ultimately what you want to be aware of when he says this is meant to be effortless, right? This is meant to be like a lover, right? And so But let's go back to why we fear our thoughts, because we think thoughts are like a lion in the savannah. We think thoughts are an unpaid bill that we're incapable of paying. We think loneliness is an impossibility that we can never overcome. So we start loving other people and never love ourselves. This is why you can find somebody like, a woman who's married 7 different times, because she's never loved herself, and she can't figure it out that she's the common denominator, that she's the reason why she's on her 7th marriage, right? Because we've learned to fear the thoughts which we are producing. Okay, so, and this is what I find, especially even within the field of law of attraction, Neville Goddard, everything, is that people will talk about responsibility, but when it comes down to it, they won't take it. They won't take their responsibility, because they'll say, well, that person made me mad. No, they didn't. That person never made you mad, right? It is like Eleanor Roosevelt said, right? You only give your power away when you agree to others. So guess what? Your agreement becomes a link between your thought and your emotion and what other people say of you and about you. Now, Neville argues, and he takes this to the extreme. You can agree with this or disagree with this, is that ultimately that that when you feel anything, when somebody reacts to you physically or verbally or even whatever it is, they're only reflecting you. So let's say somebody says, I'm disappointed in you. And you're like, no, that's their responsibility. That's their agency. That's their freedom to do that. They can say it. Yes, they do. But they're only reflecting and mirroring back to you that you already feel inadequate. Okay? And they can only do that because you have mentally, because this world is mental, God is mental, right? God is the world. We are it as well, right? We are all part of it. We are one. And so people only can reflect who you think you are. Yes, they have agency, right? But at the same time, their agency is through you. Their agency is through your thoughts, right? And our agency is through the thoughts of others. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have freedom. Of course we have freedom. We have full freedom, right? We have freedom of choice. But just like Neville says, part of that choice is wrapped up in the fact that we are constantly showing up for other people and what they desire, and people are showing up for you and what you desire, right? And that's what it is. So think of this like a grand play. Everybody has to walk on stage at different times, right, for the play to make sense, okay? And everybody has their agency. They have their freedom to walk on stage and walk off stage. That is their choice, right? So when you don't acknowledge or turn away from fear-based thoughts, so when you don't acknowledge them. So, all right, so I feel like there's 2 levels to that question, which is a very interesting one. Thank you for asking. So, okay, when you don't acknowledge it, meaning if you ignore it, so there is a level of detachment that's necessary. There's actually 2 things when you're building out your own manifestation system. One, never ever underestimate, which means really take this as important. And this is a skill. This isn't just something you do, it's a skill you build. You learn to ignore what you fear. Okay, what that means is emotionally do not react to what you fear. Train yourself. This will not happen overnight. It may not happen over the first year. Okay, it may happen over the first year. I'm not giving you a timeline. I'm trying to release the pressure of it's got to be tomorrow, because that'll create more fear. That'll create more lack. That'll create more loss, right? And so at the same time, when you're trying to build, and it is a muscle of ignoring, then yes, you want to turn that, or well, as like some Buddhists might say, detachment, right? You are detaching from the emotional response, not just from the thought, not just from saying I'm not it, but it's actually the emotion that comes behind the thought. You are detaching for both, because if you detach only from one, then the emotion is there. Now, neuroscience shows that if you have an emotional trigger, if something emotionally triggers, that means you have a memory. And even if you can't remember what that memory is this second, neuroscience shows that emotions only are birthed out of memories, but also emotions keep those memories alive. So emotions are the engine of those. And guess what? Identity, which is what manifestation is about, right, is 100% fueled by memories. But there's 3 things that actually form your state, which is your identity. They're emotions, beliefs, and memories. If you only change one of these, you will eventually manifest everything that you wanted to change back. Okay, so if it's a fear of lack or fear of loss or whatever it is, and you change the memory, but you don't change the emotion and the belief, it will come back. If you only change the belief and not the emotion and the memory, it will come back. You have to work on changing all three. This is why Neville's technique is more powerful than anything I've ever seen out there, and it ties in with neuroscience. You can check it out. It's called neuroplasticity. It's your brain's ability to learn and unlearn and relearn, right? So in the Bible, which was not written as a historical document about historical dudes lived, Jesus wasn't a dude who lived. It's your imagination, right? Says that essentially you have to forgive and you have to repent to experience the kingdom. The kingdom is what you want in the world. That is your desire. That is your desire fulfilled. That is you feeling satisfied, joyful, happy, complete, whatever it is, right? And so he says, repent. Well, repent means to think again. That means rethink how you are. So yes, you can use thoughts, but don't fear them. Use thoughts to reshape your state, which is your body of beliefs. So that is a backwards process to how people have been taught, because most people have been taught in law of attraction, change your thoughts. Almost, and they use the word vibration. What they're really saying is your emotions, and your emotion is a lens upon which you see the world, right? Now think about that. Every single day you are emoting, you are feeling, or you are pushing energy in motion. That's what emotion is, right? Energy in motion, and I'm sure you've heard that. But you are forming identities in and out through every day, right? So you can be, for example, you can be a rich person, but also a dick. You can be a rich person, but also benevolent. See, that's two states. That's not one state. That's not one set of beliefs. That's two set of beliefs that are working together, right? But those are two different like types of people, right? And so you are combining states every single second of every day. Now people hear that and that freaks the fuck out of them, because they're like, well, wait a minute, what does that mean? Like, I'm always doing it? No, but you've always been doing it, and you will always do it. This isn't something to fear, it's something to become aware of, so that you become the architect, you become the builder, you become the mental construction worker who begins building a new mental architecture. But right now, when you start out, let's say you're starting out, because your brain has been primed by evolution to only look for fears, your brain is going to go shit crazy, because it's going to be like, oh, wait a minute, no. You're saying that me not being able to pay my bill right now is not a threat, because maybe you're starting to say, I am rich, I can pay bills easily, money comes to me easily, all of these kinds of things. So because your brain is primed and trained to look for and even modify all the good that you are saying, it is trying to tell you, hey, this is still a threat. You're trying to say it's not a threat. I'm going to pay my bills, even if it's due Friday. I'm going to assume Friday my bill is paid. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Let me see. So if the media, the culture, the religions are based on fear, doesn't that keep people from manifesting their desires? 100%. Hence why we have a system like capitalism that says you have to earn your way to the top. And then you have at least 40% of the country in America, at least, who really struggle, and they think that they're doing something wrong, because the whole system is you're not working hard enough, right? And so even Neville says you don't earn this. Like, you don't go in and earn this, you go in and be it. There's no earning involved. There's no earning at all. You go in and be rich. You into your imagination, into your visualizations, first person, never third person, right? And you create an action that you repeat over and over and over again until it feels real. It might feel real after your first session, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 10 minutes, 4 minutes. It doesn't matter the timing. It matters that you feel it. The frequency doesn't matter, but the frequency is important in that you use the frequency, meaning how many times you do it, to actually get to the point of belief and self-conviction. And that may take you one day. It may take you 10 years. It may take you 4 years. I'm not giving you a timeline, but people need to stop putting so much pressure on themselves. It's like, it has to perform right now. It has to. That's cultural value. That is cultural. Now, I am not against people manifesting things quickly, but this channel was dedicated for advanced manifestation, which means, and even Neville's mentor, Abdullah, had said this in a conversation with Walter C. Lanyon. A really, really good book, by the way. It's called Abdullah the Teacher, or Ab the Teacher. And he says, some people don't realize that some of this stuff with manifestation could take a very long time, right? And so I'm more interested not in making sure that you take a long time to do this, but that you realize, yes, you can manifest stuff in 10 seconds. I've seen it, I've done it. I've manifested a space in line within 10 seconds, right? Because I didn't want to wait that long, so I manifested somebody giving it to me. Okay, great. So everybody can do this. Everybody is already doing it anyways, right? But yes, so I mean, the way in which our society is architected, you should read the work of Jacques Lacan, Lacan. His whole work is very hard, takes almost everybody I know 3 years to understand his work. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I don't know one person yet. Even one of his students, it took 3 years to understand. But the way he understands and the way he explains society is the way in which I think people need to become Lacanian, meaning to follow his work, than to fully understand what Neville's talking about. Because people really, really struggle with his work, Neville's, because he's more esoteric, he's more mystical, right? Joseph Murphy's more practical. Oh, just use this affirmation, blah, 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 blah. Neville tends to be a little bit more mystical and a little bit more deeper, right? And so I'm more dedicated to that than I am just, hey, here's a drive-through version. Get rich quick scheme, right? Those things exist, and yes, you can get rich quick. Those things, but they're not a scheme. Those only work because you believe you are it. You are it. That means you're also not that. That means you're not poor, right? So for you to fully grasp this, you are not your threats. You are not the things that look and appear and taste and feel like your threats, right? So for example, in Hinduism, there's 8 forms of consciousness, right? Now, I don't believe, like I said, I'm not into woo, I'm not into lighting candles and reading astrology signs, and you don't need any of that stuff. Otherwise, you're giving your power away, right? But basically, what you end up with, though, is this idea that in Hinduism, the word consciousness could be replaced with memories. Even Neville says that we should be revising our memories every single day. Take 1 or 2 childhood memories or 1 or 2 events that happened in the last week that you wanted to go differently, change them. But also, and this is not even, I've never heard this other than with one of my mentors, is that you don't want to just use revision, which means changing your past for the bad. You also want to use it for the good. So take something that went well, 10 times it to make it better, right? And so, and guys, if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you hit that follow and subscribe button. Make sure you join the Discord. There's a free link in my bio. And if that doesn't work, email me and I'll make sure that you get the link. I do offer packages, and I also offer a very affordable breakdown, 4 different ways to pay for the coaching. So get in touch and find out more about that. But basically, what I wanted to do is jump on it, and we got about 3 or 4 more minutes, is basically... And then after that 3 or 4 more minutes, I'm going to give you like a few techniques from science. But basically what I wanted to do is come on here and deal with this, because our brains are primed for fear. Our brain are primed for trying to protect yourself. But if you're a courageous person, you don't think of fear first. You think of fear second. And you're going to have fear. You're going to have anxiety. But you get to choose how big of a part they play in your life. Right? And so Neville says you're always going to have God and Satan, but Satan isn't some dude that looks like freaking Krampus or some dude with horns or anything like that. It's the embodiment. It's a mystical metaphor for our doubts, our fears, the things that our limiting beliefs. And then God is not some white-haired dude up in the sky. It is basically your embodiment of your fulfilled desires, right? Whatever makes you feel complete, that's God. And you're always going to have these. You're never going to not have these. Why? Because they're here playing it out, right? And so basically you are, yes. And let's see. So it is keeping your attention focused on one thing at a time helps with dealing with fear. I think so, because fear starts perpetuating a bigger story. Like, oh, well, if you fail here, you're going to fail there. You're going to fail here, you're going to fail there. It's kind of vascular, right? Kind of like a grapevine. It just keeps branching out, right? And so, but remember, ask yourself, if you fear, that means there's also a past belief, a past memory, a past emotion that you felt. And you must start there. You start revising it. Yes, revising it. Again, he's the only guy that I've ever seen talk about revision, okay? And again, like I said, he takes it from the biblical idea of repentance, which means to think again, or return. Now, in the ancient Hebrew, that word return, which is the teshuvah, is the same idea for repentance, but what's being returned? This is very interesting. So what is being returned is the energy that you are holding back from yourself by holding on to a fearful thought, a fearful belief, a fearful childhood event, something that your parents did to you, something that your uncle did to you. And I'm not saying that none of that, all of that matters or anything like that. I'm saying that you matter more than those events, because the you that is you, that's God. The you that is your mind, that is your imagination, which is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was never a person. Jesus Christ is your imagination who dies on the cross, which means who alters and changes the pattern of your thoughts by dying to the old self, right? And so you you end up practicing this for your life. And yes, I want everybody to manifest everything there very quickly. And you can. And I believe you can. And I believe you can do things within seconds. I believe you can do it overnight. Neville seems to argue that you can change states within 12 seconds. Right? I mean, but keep in mind, people read him and they're like this, like first day reading him, and they think, why can't I change my state? Because you've just started your journey. Right? So have some patience with this, right? Do some self-care, do some self-love. Meditation to me is always top notch, because that's what he means when actually there's two things. I read it very differently. He says, let's go into the silence. A lot of people read that as meditation. Great. To me, that's level 1. Level 2 is silence. What is silence? It's a gap between what? Who you are now and your fears and anxiety. You can't pay your bills, feeling lonely because you don't have somebody to love you, whatever it is. And then there's the gap. Okay, and in this gap is the work, the mental work, the 6 days, and then 7th is the day of rest. That means you know, beyond a shadow of doubt, you're it. That 7 days may take you 10 seconds. That 7 days may take you 4 years. Whatever it is that it works for you to get you there, right? The timeline is dependent only on you. It doesn't have to take that long, right? It's how much you believe. So how much can you get yourself to believe, not force it. If you force yourself to believe, it won't work. And if it does, it will fail eventually. Right? This is why people who will maybe get married and then it'll break up and then they'll get back together and then they'll break up again, right? Because they may have manifested a momentary healing or a moment of recognition, but they haven't really done the inner work, right? And so, that is what I want to challenge you with. One, you aren't fear. You aren't your anxiety. But know that your brain is primed for those things, and that what Neville's calling us to do is really hard work. He's actually calling us to mentally rearrange our brain to not be feared, right? So when you meet a fear, go through it, meet it head on. So in my field of psychology, we talk about exposure therapy. That's like, for example, somebody who has a fear of heights and they start climbing a ladder. You don't go have a fear of heights and then jump out of a plane the next day. You incrementally build up. You build the muscle. Why? Because over time you start identifying as that person. This is why people, this is very interesting, this is actually researched, this is why most people, and when I say most, about 86% of people fail at following through on their New Year's resolutions. Why? Because they don't identify as that person. So they'll say, oh, I need to lose weight. Why? Because they're identifying as a person who needs to lose weight rather than the person who's already lost the weight. And that they're just practicing, oh, I'm a gym goer now. Okay? Same with people who are trying to manifest a house. It's the difference between saying I have a house or I'm a house owner. Do you hear the difference? I have a house means I could lose it. I'm a house owner, I already have it. Right? And so these are two very different identities. And so one allows the opportunity for loss, and the other one says, there's no way in hell I'm going to lose this. Right? And so that's what Neville also calls brazen impudence, which means I'm balls deep in this thing, meaning I am going all in. There's nothing that's going to get in my way, and that is who I am right now. I'm not waiting for it. I'm now. And that's what this is. Your mind, the imagination, your visualizations are the eternal now. When you go in and imagine from the first person and you're repeatedly doing those actions, right? You are that now. When you walk out of those visualizations, you are that now, right? Yes, the world as a mirror might show you some past stuff. That's all it is. It's just a past reflection, and call it that. Give it that. So let me close with this, okay? Is because I have another meeting. Is basically what I want you to do is I want you to use the power of reframing, okay? Reframing means call it something else, right? When your fear comes up, say, this is opportunity to become better at manifesting, or this is an opportunity to become a better version of myself. This opportunity to prove to my parents. Now, by the way, I would never encourage people to use that as a lifelong strategy. Never do something for somebody else in the name of somebody else, meaning never try to say, I'm going to prove to my parents. If that's the initial gas, like gasoline, that gets you going, great. Do not rely on that, okay? But reframe it. Give it a different title. Okay, don't call fears fears. In fact, they actually did research on this in neuroscience, and they followed people over 5 years. It's a very, very interesting piece of research, and they actually they measured their telomeres. Okay, the telomeres are the caps at the end of your cells. Each cell in your whole body, brain to foot, right, has telomeres. Okay, telomeres are the caps at the end of your cells. Now, they actually tested people's telomeres, and they separated them in two groups. And one group, they said, just go live your lives. And then another group, they actually said, listen, every time you meet with opposition, fear, you have a bad moment, you lose somebody, whatever it is, call it an opportunity, call it an adventure, call it fun, call it a learning moment, whatever it is. So after those 5 years, what they did is they tested their telomeres. Okay. Now remember, what happens with these telomeres on the end of your cells is that they begin dying off and aging as you age, right? So they found out that the ones who did not reframe it, which means didn't give it a different name, more positive name, their telomeres just dropped off as they would, whatever it was. Those that reframed them, their telomeres actually almost de-aged. So let me just say it this way. If you use the power of reframing, right, you can live longer. Quite literally, it will help you live longer. Okay, and use Wim Hof breathing for your meditation practice. Wim Hof, you can find his stuff. He's a free app. He has a paid app as well, but Wim Hof breathing, but also reframe. And then for the first 14 days, what I want you to do is take one of your senses, and I'm going to end it right here. One of your senses, okay? And I want you to take every single day with a sense, okay? And reset it every week. Meaning, like, if you do Mondays for your eyesight, then do next Monday for your eyesight. And then ear, second day, and so on, and taste. But see where your mind goes. You're gonna find out what you believe about food. You're gonna find out what you believe about what you see. You're gonna find out what you believe about what you hear. Don't judge it, just listen to it. Let it unfold. Learn also during these 14 days, try not to judge it. Right? Oh, these are just thoughts. And then realize that there's a thinker thinking the thought. And that thinker is not you. That thinker is just this avatar, this flesh suit, doing what it's doing, which is primed to look at things through fear. You are trying to train it. This is not a fear. This is just a thought, right? Give it a label that really helps you feel empowered, right? So hopefully that's helpful. And again, if you're looking for coaching, get in touch. There's an email that still works. The Discord may or may not work. Let me know. Email me or leave a comment on some of my other videos. That would mean a lot to me. Bring your friends along. I'm doing a promotion till the end of the year that you get 5% off my packages. And also, like I said, there are 4 different ways in which I can offer you payment plans to make it achievable. Everything from 1 week to paying it off over a year. So please get in touch. If you have time, maybe leave 5 or 6 comments on any of my videos. That really helps. And if you have any questions, do that. But the Discord's free. Would love to have you there. And hope to be on sometime in the next 7 days. Thank you all for being here, and much love to you, and manifest well.